Election countdown, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton make last-minute blitz across several states.
The long lines to see John Bon Jovi, Bruce Springsteen, the Obamas, and the Clintons all rallying in Pennsylvania tonight, a state with a key Senate race. I'm Jason Calvi. I'll bring you here coming up.
I'm Wyatt Goolsby reporting from the battleground state of New Hampshire. We'll have the latest on one of the closest Senate races in the country and how the life issues dividing both candidates.
Remembering Janet Reno. What stood out about the first woman to serve as U.S. Attorney General? And the Vatican's concerns with China. A priest reportedly ordained bishop without the Pope's approval. Those stories and more on EWTN News Nightly for Monday, November 7th, 2016. Months of campaigning come down to this. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton make one final push before Election Day. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Patrick. We have special election coverage today. Jason Calvi and Wyatt Goolsby are on the campaign trail. They're in states where Senate races could tip the balance of congressional control. We first focus on the presidential race with Lauren Ashburn at our political desk.
Brian, the polls open in the morning, and for many, voting can't come soon enough. It has been 18 months of whittling down 17 Republicans, 3 Democrats to the mainstream candidates we have today. 1 billion tweets have been sent about the election since primary debates began in August of last year. So, how are they doing at this late date? The Real Clear Politics average of polls as of November 7th shows Hillary Clinton leading Donald Trump 47.2% to 44.3%. If you add in Libertarian Gary Johnson and Green Party Jill Stein, it's 45.5 to 42.3 advantage in that 4-person race. Donald Trump criticizes the FBI's decision not to seek criminal charges against Hillary Clinton. He's doing this on the campaign trail, and he says now it's up to the American people to deliver justice at the ballot box. FBI Director James Comey sent a notice to Congress yesterday. He says a review of new emails connected to Clinton's private email servers did not produce evidence that would warrant charges. Hillary Clinton is not addressing the email investigation on the campaign trail. Instead, she's focusing on getting people to vote. In her speeches, she says the difference between her and Trump is the difference between division and unity.
Vote for your futures. Vote on the issues that matter to you because they are on the ballot, not just my name.
Clinton is making campaign stops today in Michigan, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, 3 states she's counting on to win the election. Donald Trump has been railing against the recent FBI letter all day, saying Hillary Clinton is guilty and is protected by a rigged system, and he can't believe that Election Day is tomorrow.
This is it, folks. We will never have another opportunity. Not in 4 years, not in 8 years. It'll be over with Supreme Court justices, with people pouring into our country. This is it. This is it. Good luck. Get out there. I did my thing. I worked.
Trump says he'll nominate conservative Supreme Court justices who will uphold the Constitution and support a pro-life agenda. He's campaigning in states that could decide the election: Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, and Michigan. Well, the future of the Senate hangs in the balance. Will Republicans hold on to power, or will Democrats, who are promising to get rid of the Hyde Amendment, which bans taxpayer funds for most abortion? In battleground Pennsylvania, Hillary Clinton leads Donald Trump 46 to 44%, with 3% going to Libertarian Gary Johnson and 1.6% to Green Party candidate Jill Stein. One of the most hotly contested Senate races is happening there between Republican Pat Toomey and Democrat Katie McGinty. She leads by 2 points. According to Pew Research, Catholics make up 24% of the population in Pennsylvania. And that's where we can find our Jason Calvi. He's in Philadelphia tonight, where the Clintons, with the Obamas by their side, will be holding a final campaign rally with special guests. Jason.
That's right, Lauren, and very long lines to get in here for the rally, which also features John Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen. Katie McGinty, the Democratic candidate for Senate, will also be speaking. She's hoping for a big Clinton win here in Pennsylvania to take McGinty right into the U.S. Senate. Now, both her and her Republican rival, Senator Pat Toomey, are Catholic. Toomey won the Senate seat in 2010 by only 80,000 votes. Toomey hasn't endorsed the GOP nominee, Donald Trump. He's walking a very delicate tightrope, hoping to bring in moderates. The one-term U.S. Senator jetted around the state today. He's selling himself as a check on President Clinton.
I don't think we need a rubber stamp for Hillary Clinton and the left wing of the Democratic Party. We need instead a big win tomorrow night here in Pennsylvania. And I think that's what we're going to do.
We're heading closer to the legitimization long-term and foundationally of abortion on demand at any single time and having the taxpayers pay for it all the time. That's what we're headed for if Katie McGinty ends up in the Senate and the Senate turns over and then the Supreme Court turns over.
President Bill Clinton appointed McGinty to be his chief environmental aide in the White House. She had a similar role here in Pennsylvania. Lauren?
And Jason, tell us about the expense of this race.
Well, Time Magazine is reporting that this is the most expensive Senate race in U.S. history. Something like $140 million have been spent on this race alone. Lauren?
And what are they doing with all of that money, Jason?
Great question. We do know one thing for sure. Those ads will all end on Tuesday, and many of the voters we've spoken with here are very happy to hear that those ads will end. One of the ads in particular looked at abortion. It was put out by NARAL, Pro-Choice America, and they blasted Senator Toomey. They said he would punish women for getting in an abortion, but PolitiFact actually looked into that video, that campaign ad, and they said that's just not true. He's never, ever said he would punish women for getting an abortion. Lauren?
Okay, Jason Calvi in Pennsylvania, thank you so much. Another key swing state is New Hampshire. It's not only a stomping ground for both presidential candidates, it's locked in another tight Senate race. Right now, GOP Senator Kelly Ayotte leads by a narrow margin. Polls average her at 47.1%. Her challenger, Maggie Hassan, 45.6%. And Catholics there make up 26% of the population of New Hampshire. Our Wyatt Goolsbee joins us from Plymouth, where Senator Ayotte is set to speak tonight. Wyatt.
Lauren, this is one of the closest Senate races we've ever seen. Nearly every poll says basically this is a toss-up. It's why Senator Ayotte and Governor Hassan are working around the clock. One of the biggest differences between the two candidates is their stance on abortion. Ayotte is pro-life, Hassan is pro-choice. We caught up with Senator Ayotte this morning as she hit the campaign trail. She has voted to defund Planned Parenthood, and now she says the abortion provider is doing everything they can to keep her from winning.
Planned Parenthood has spent millions of dollars attacking me in this race, so they're a political organization, and I believe that the money for women's preventative care, putting it in the community health centers in our state, is a better use of taxpayer dollars, and that's what I've supported.
Ayotte has also been critical of Obamacare and contraceptive mandate, which she sees as a violation of religious liberty. Maggie Hassan, her opponent, is the current governor. She has been endorsed by Michelle Obama and Hillary Clinton. Hassan, who has been governor since 2012, supports Obamacare and what she calls abortion rights. Senator Ayotte tells me that it's important that Republicans win generally in this election across the country so that they can keep their hold on the Senate, as well as, of course, protect religious liberty. Lauren?
Wyatt, does Senator Ayotte support Donald Trump? I think that she said originally she did, and then she didn't.
Well, at this point, Senator Ayotte says she does support Donald Trump. She's going to vote for him, but she doesn't support everything he says. For example, she doesn't support his recent comments about women. Now, she had a bit of a political gaffe on this last month. She was in a debate, and they asked her if she thought that Donald Trump would make a good role model for children. She originally responded during the debate saying absolutely. Then after the debate, she took that back, saying that neither Trump nor Clinton would be good role models for children. Lauren?
Wyatt Goolsbee in New Hampshire. Thank you, Wyatt. We'll see you tomorrow. Catholics have voted for the winning presidential candidate for decades, and this year there's a distinct split between white and Hispanic voters.
The last snapshot we have from PRRI prior to the election has Donald Trump winning by 7, 41% for Hillary Clinton, 48% for Donald Trump among white Catholics. But that picture looks very different when we get to Latino Catholics, where we have Hillary Clinton at 84% and Donald Trump at 12%.
Joining me now is Matt Schlapp, a member of Donald Trump's Catholic Advisory Board and a former political director for George W. Bush. Welcome back to the program.
Great to be here, Lauren.
We're almost done.
Oh, boy.
It's been a long time, right? Now, do these poll numbers showing the large gap between white and Hispanic Catholic voters really just come down to the immigration issue? Is that what it is?
I think it's a big issue. I think there's a question of respect for Hispanic voters. But there's another question here, too, which is look what's happening to people with Obamacare and these double-digit premium increases. I think that's another kind of like a bread and butter kitchen table issue that is going to be important to these voters. I think it's a mistake to assume that as Hispanic numbers seem to be growing in the early vote, that all of that cuts against Donald Trump. And of course, on questions of values, family values, kids, life, marriage, I think there's a lot of crossover appeal to Hispanics as well.
You know, you first came on the program about a month ago when this Catholic Advisory Board was started. It was about a month out, or maybe a month and a half ago. And now Donald Trump is winning, as you can see, white Catholics. So good job. Pat yourself on the back, right?
It's because of us.
Do you think that it was smart for him to make this Catholic push? There are also videos out there that he has that he's been pushing to Catholics. How strong is his connection with Catholics?
I think it's just like with Hispanic voters. When you show respect, asking for the vote is kind of like a primary necessity in politics. And what Donald Trump has done to the Catholic community, to Catholic voters, is say, look, I know you're important. You're an important swing constituency. A lot of people will tell you that the Catholic vote will determine who the president is. And he has reached out to Catholic leaders to try to figure out what kind of policies he needs to learn about, because he hasn't run before.
Sure.
And he's actually been willing to listen. And you see him incorporating this concept of religious freedom, and we all know how important that is. That's now incorporated into his stump speech. He brings it up in every speech that he's going to pick pro-life judges, which what could be more important than that?
What can Catholics expect from his administration? Here he's saying all of these things now, and everybody wants to know, and this was a topic of conversation running up to this, is he going to stay with it?
He's going to dance with the one who brung him.
Okay.
And if Catholics and evangelicals and voters of faith stand with him, I think it's going to be a powerful statement to him when he's the President of the United States if he were to win.
What if Clinton wins? What legislative options do you think Catholic leaders are going to have to put into place? Or what are leaders like you going to have to do to protect life?
If Clinton wins, we have to pull together very quickly. Because remember, last time we talked about the Al Gore winning in 2000, it was the Freedom of Choice Act and passing a federal law that would actually prevent any limitations on abortion. We already know that she's taken God out of the Democratic platform. We already know that she thinks our hard-earned taxpayer money should go to pay for abortions. She's got a very radical agenda. And then finally, she has the Obama positions on the ability for people of faith to practice their faith fully in their lives. As imperfect as we are, we want to practice our faith, and she's opposed to that. So we're going to have to, if we lose, we're going to have to get over it quickly, because it's going to be coming right for our heads.
Right. Matt Schlapp, American Conservative Union president, thank you so much for joining us. And Brian, coming up later in the program, we're going to ask a panel about the importance of the FBI's role in determining a Trump or Clinton presidency.
Thank you, Lauren Ashburn. Other stories our EWTN News Nightly team is covering in today's world. The first woman to serve as U.S. Attorney General has died. Her family says Janet Reno passed away at her home in Miami early this morning. Reno was 78 and had Parkinson's disease for 20 years. During her time in the Clinton administration, the 1993 Waco, Texas standoff resulted in the deaths of more than 80 people. She also approved the armed raid that led to the forcible removal of young Cuban immigrant Elian Gonzalez, who was eventually returned to Cuba. Reno ran for governor of Florida in 2002, narrowly losing in the Democratic primary there. Dozens of buildings in Oklahoma sustained substantial damage in a magnitude 5.0 earthquake last night. Cushing City Manager Steve Spears says the damage includes cracks in buildings and fallen bricks. That damage appears to be contained to the downtown area, where piles of debris sits at the base of some commercial buildings. No serious injuries are reported. Fearing aftershocks, police cordoned off older parts of that city to keep gawkers away. The Vatican denounces the reported ordination of a bishop in China's underground Catholic Church without the approval of the Pope. The Vatican press office says today ordinations of this sort would be a grave violation of church law. China has an estimated 12 million Catholics. Many are in independent, underground congregations. They're outside the control of the Communist Party's Chinese Catholic Patriotic Association. Coming up, Pope Francis calls the treatment of migrants shameful. And more election analysis, including the fallout from the Clinton email investigation. Thank you for joining us this Monday evening, November 7th. I'm Brian Patrick. Pope Francis describes the treatment of migrants arriving in Europe as shameful.
Vergüenza.
The Holy Father meeting over the weekend with environmentalists, labor union members, and indigenous rights activists. He calls the amounts of money governments spend to save ailing banks scandalous. A special Jubilee Mass for prisoners is celebrated Sunday in St. Peter's Basilica. Pope Francis tells inmates all people have made mistakes. He urges them never to give up hope in God's mercy. The Holy Father constantly encourages greater compassion for all people, including those who are incarcerated. Pope Francis taps one of his new cardinals as the next Archbishop of Newark. Joseph Tobin, who is now the Archbishop of Indianapolis, is one of 3 Americans to be elevated to cardinal November 19th at the Vatican. His appointment provides a fresh start for an archdiocese battered by controversy. The Newark Archdiocese serves about 1.7 million Catholics of diverse backgrounds. The Hillary Clinton email investigation is one of many issues making headlines this election week. Lauren Ashburn continues coverage from our political desk tonight. Lauren?
Brian, thank you very much. Right now joining us, we have Tim Carney and we have Genevieve Wood. Thank you for being here, both former RNC communications spokesperson and Tim Carney with the Washington Examiner. We've been talking a lot about the FBI. How important has this latest release been?
Well, I think if you look at most of the poll numbers, it doesn't look like they did a whole lot of anything. But I think a lot of that, Lauren, is the fact that the scandal kind of stuff has been going on for so long. I'm not sure that people, they're just tired of it. It's just scandal fatigue. And I think people, to a great extent, who are supporting these candidates were already locked in. And the question is, where do the undecideds go? And this doesn't look like it moved to either of those camps.
What do you think?
Yeah, and so I watched the polls because I watched also a ton of mainstream journalists freak out and liberal journalists freak out. Paul Krugman, after telling us that it's the worst thing in the world to say an election might be rigged, said the election was being rigged. But I think that was all much ado about nothing. As Genevieve said, the polls basically stayed flat over those few days.
So taking that into account, what would you be saying to Donald Trump if you were running comms for the RNC right now? What would you be saying the messaging should be?
Well, I think in certain states where he really needs to do well, places like North Carolina and, say, Pennsylvania, Obamacare premiums are huge there. And that's something that I think he was getting traction with. But that, and along with the other theme of the overall election, which is Washington is not working for the average American. I'm the only outsider left in this race, folks. Right. And so if you want to be a part of that, come on board.
And that has been his message, and he has stayed on message in these last few days. Tim, let's talk about the issues that are important to our audience here. Let's talk about the life issues. And we've seen some ballot initiatives on euthanasia. What do you think is driving conservatives to the polls more? Is it those social issues?
So I do talk to a lot of conservatives who dislike Donald Trump for a variety of reasons because they don't see him as a conservative, but then at the end of the day will vote for Trump because they think he'll appoint good judges. And then some who say, well, you know what, because in his heart he's not pro-life and he hasn't shown a sort of conservative Catholic life, a conservative personal life, marriage and all that stuff, that they're going to stay home. So I do think that is a huge thing for a lot of Catholic voters, are those issues. But the way people come down on it, I've seen a mix of both reactions.
Genevieve, do you think that you would say that these pro-life issues are of paramount importance?
They're huge. They're absolutely huge. I mean, look, I'm sure you've talked about this on the show a zillion times, the importance of not just the Supreme Court, but the federal courts all the way down the block. When President Obama came into office, about 4 of the 13 courts leaned left. Now 9 of them do. People have to think about that because that's where so many cases, including state laws on abortion, get decided or at the federal appeals court and then up to the Supreme Court. The next president's going to have a lot of ability to shape those.
Your prediction?
I think she'll win less than 50%, but over 300 electoral votes.
Genevieve?
I'm going to hope there's a surprise tomorrow and we see Trump pull it out.
Okay, thank you so much. Tim Carney from the Examiner, Genevieve Wood, former RNC spokesperson.
Up next, continuing election coverage, we preview tomorrow's top races and how conservative Christian women voters could make a real difference.
Welcome back. I'm Lauren Ashburn on this pre-election eve, along with Wyatt Goolsby in New Hampshire and Jason Calvi in Pennsylvania. We're planning comprehensive election coverage from Washington, D.C. and beyond tomorrow. Jason, give us a preview.
Well, think of all of the major issues that the Senate debated this last year, whether it's funding for Planned Parenthood, the future of the Supreme Court and Barack Obama's pick for the Supreme Court. Whoever wins the Senate, whether it's the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, will decide the fate of those issues moving forward. And one of the key issues, one of the key battleground states is right here in Pennsylvania. But first, we need to get in this long line here to get inside this Clinton rally, Obama rally, also John Bon Jovi, and Bruce Springsteen. That's here in Pennsylvania. Now we go to Wyatt in New Hampshire. Wyatt?
Jason, a total of 4 electoral votes are up for grabs here in New Orleans. That's not many, but it's enough to keep Donald Trump and Mike Pence coming back. They're talking tonight. We'll have coverage and we'll hear from New Hampshire voters on that issue. Plus, we're covering the tightest Senate race we've ever covered here on EWTN News Nightly. We'll have more on that. And of course, we'll have more on their casting their ballots tomorrow as well. Back to you, Lauren.
Thank you, Wyatt. EWTN Chairman and CEO Michael Warsaw calls tomorrow's election a supremely important decision. Writing in the National Catholic Register, he says the next president will appoint a successor to Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. There is no other more important decision than that, he says, and you can read his entire article at ncregister.com. Join us tomorrow night for live election coverage. We'll be here at 6 and 9 p.m. Eastern. EWTN News Nightly will provide a unique political view from a Catholic perspective. Brian, we will talk to you soon.
Thank you, Lauren. And of course, we'll have live coverage tomorrow. Conservative women could be a deciding factor in selecting our next president tomorrow. Joining us, Donna Rice Hughes. She's president and CEO of Enough is Enough. That's a nonprofit working to make the internet safer for children and families. I know you're not here in that capacity, but as a voter, why did you decide to urge conservative women to support Trump?
I think it's so important because, like you said, this is the swing vote. And it's important that we look at the trajectory of this election and the different policies of each of the candidates. And they're very, very different. They have a very different role or a philosophy of the role of government. One is more of the elitist in Washington, can think better than we can, we the people, whereas Trump it's more about self-governance. And so that, as conservatives, that's something we really care about. And as you look down the GOP platform, you look at the issues of life and of religious liberty and Obamacare and even global warming. Priests for Life put together a great side-by-side of the GOP platform and the Democratic platform. And as conservatives, if you look at that, you go, there's really only one choice here, and it has to be Trump-Pence. I think it's important that we realize that both are flawed candidates, and it's not so much about the personalities, but about the policies and moving forward. And most importantly, the president only serves 4 to 8 years, but the Supreme Court justices, they serve an average of 30 years. That's a generational impact. And Trump has been very specific. He says he's going to stick to strict constitutionalist judges. Hillary Clinton has said pro Roe v. Wade, pro-abortion, right down the line. So the key thing is that women get out and vote. They look at the issues and they make a decision based on that. And also Trump has surrounded himself with some wonderful, solid people. And I think that is very, very important to look at who they're surrounding themselves with.
Donna Rice Hughes making a strong case. Thanks for joining us, Donna.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us tonight for the EWTN News Nightly team. I'm Brian Patrick. Good night. God bless you.